So let me share the screen. And right. So I thought this was an interesting lesson to learn. It's, do you know the difference between I used to drive on the left and I'm used to driving on the left?
No.
You don't know the difference. See how it says I used there? I used to drive, and here it's I'm used to driving. Now this word used is being used in two quite different ways here, right?
Okay.
So that's what this is a good lesson to do. So here's some more examples. I used to want to be a lawyer, very appropriate for you. But then I realized how hard they work. Okay.
Okay.
So I used to is an expression about what I wanted to do in the past.
Okay.
I used to means I wanted to back then. It's not a statement about how I feel today. How's Boston? Are you used to the cold weather yet? So here used to is a statement that it's nothing to do with what you used to want in the past, right? It's nothing to do with that. Here, used to is being used to ask a question. Have you got acclimatized or acclimated to the cold weather? So it's used to means that in that context. Third example here, no matter how many times I fly, I never get used to taking off and landing. So get used to here is being used in the sense of, again, get acclimated, right? So that's two different quite uses, and that's what this lesson's about, is learning these two different. They sound the same and they're written the same, but they mean different things. Okay.
Teacher, the second meaning means habit.
Habit, not. Yes, it could mean that. It's not so much habit as acclimated. You know, acclimated it. If I came to Iran, I don't think I could get acclimated to the weather. Right? That means used to it. You see? I couldn't get used to it.
Okay.
So let's go into this grammar test here. It looks like Fabiola's joining. Hi, Fabiola.
Hi, teacher.
Hi. We're just going into grammar lesson here, and it's to explain the two different uses of the word used to. I used to want to be a lawyer means I wanted to in the past. I wanted to be a lawyer in the past, okay? And then used to, in this example, are you used to the cold weather? It's nothing to do with the past. It's a statement about the present, or a question about the present. And it's asking, am I used, as in the sense of acclimated to the weather?
Okay.
Right, so that's the two scenarios we're going to look at here. So there's a kind of a test first, and then I think there's probably examples. So grammar.
She used to work.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mona. Oh,
She used to work, first one.
in the bank, but she left and got a job as a gardener. Yes. Yes, exactly. She used to work. So this is used in the sense of what she did in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's that one. Right, let's go to the next test one. Since we had a baby, something much sleep.
I've got used to not getting.
Yes, that's right. And this is used in the sense of get acclimated. See that?
Okay. Yes.
Right. How's the new job? Something it yet? Are you used to it yet? Did you use it or do you used to?
Are you
Yes,
first one?
correct. Feel free to dive in, Fabi, if you've got answers to any of these questions. Before I retired, I something have much time to read.
I used to. I'm not sure. I never used to. I
Right.
never used to.
Correct. The engine noise was deafening, but the driver something it.
Mm, driver. Mm, Second one, used to.
Nearly, but not quite, Mona. You see, you wouldn't say the driver used to it. You would have to put a was in there,
Oh, okay.
right? He was used to it.
Okay.
So you need that in there. Right, this one is our house is on a steep hill, but I something the walk after a month of living there. Our house is on a steep hill, and I something the walk after a month of living there.
I got used to.
Correct.
Second one.
Correct. If you wanted to say get, you would say I am getting used to it. See that?
Okay.
I am getting.
Okay.
But if I've already gotten used to it, you say I got used to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, use something in the city center after a while.
You used to live, first one.
No. No, it's really a statement. It's really a statement about the present again, right? It's a statement about the present. And
I get used to living.
yes,
I will.
that's right, Fabi. Correct. Very good. I'll get used to living in the city. So it's picturing somebody moving from the country. We would call somebody in the country a country bumpkin. Let me show you that, right. So country, slight aside, a country bumpkin. What is a country bumpkin? It's used in British English. An awkward, simple, rustic person. No doubt she feels herself superior to us country bumpkins. Okay, so that's not an American word. It's very much a British word. So if you live in the country, you could say, I'm a country bumpkin. Okay? So,
Okay.
so that's a useful colloquial expression, country bumpkin. It can be pejorative and cannot. It depends on the context. You just have to figure out if I'm just being facetious with somebody or if I'm really putting somebody down if I use that word, right? So it just depends on the context.
Okay.
So the point here is you've got somebody from the country who's moved to the city, and somebody is saying to them, don't worry, you'll get used to living in the city center after a while. Make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. When we were at university, we something have to write an essay a week. It's a hard one,
First
isn't it?
one.
You think so? I think this is a hard one.
Yes.
I really had to think about this because all of them are grammatically correct. We got used. No. The first one is wrong because if it was the first one, it would be having rather than have. We got used to having rather than have.
Okay.
See?
Okay. Yeah.
So if we say the second one, we used to have to write an essay a week. That makes grammatical sense. And if we put the third one in, we were used to have, it's bad grammar. This is the correct answer. We used to have. So if it's the infinitive, you have to say have. If it's these two, either of the other two, you have to say having. The gerund form.
Okay.
So let's press finish and just check we've got the answers correct. So we got them all correct. Okay, now I think if we work down here, we'll get more of an explanation. Used to plus the infinitive, and an infinitive, remember, is the to something, right? So we used to
Yes.
go, or we used to come, we used to eat, and so on. So that's one form of used with to. And then the second form is be or get used to, and the ing form, right? So what they're saying here is they look similar, but they're very different uses, right? These two forms look the similar, but they're totally different meanings, and you need to learn both. So use to plus the infinitive to talk about a past situation is no longer true. Okay, so that's why I said it's like how you felt in the past, for example.
Okay.
It tells us that there was a repeated action or state in the past which is now changed. So it's putting ourselves in the past. And some examples. She used to be a long distance runner when she was younger. See? She used to. So it was true in the past, it's not true any longer. I didn't used to sleep very well, but then I started doing yoga and it really helps. So this is somebody speaking about the past, and in the past they didn't sleep well, but they find that yoga helped them. Did you used to come here as a child? So speaking about a place, did you used to come here? So used to. Did you used to come here in the past? Okay. So it's use with to or used with to. Now the second usage is be used to and get used to. Be used to means be familiar with. I said acclimated, or accustomed, or be accustomed to, right? So when you see a be with it, that's what it means. She's used to the city now and doesn't get lost anymore. Okay, so this is slightly confusing here because she's is short for she is, and is a form of the verb be, to be, but it's the present form. So if something is, to be, is the current form of that. So she is used to the city now and doesn't get lost anymore. So that's being used as in the sense of she's familiar or accustomed to it. He wasn't used to walking so much and his legs hurt after the hike. So again, this is the idea of present. And it's putting it in the negative. Wasn't is was not. So as I've seen your hand, I'll come to you in a minute, Mona. He wasn't used to walking so much. So his legs hurt. Yes, Mona, do you have a question?
Teacher, excuse me that I'm asking this question. Always I thought that after to we should use verb simply, but now is with ing, and because of that I can't understand. I think that after to we should say walk, not walking, ing.
Yeah. So first of all, yeah, okay, that's a good question, Mona, right? So first of all, it's pronounced walk, not work. You're almost saying work, right? But it's not work. It's not work. It's walk, walk, walk. See, watch my mouth. Walk.
Right.
Right. So we walk, right? So he wasn't used to walking. Now, the fact that it's ing, you can't say he wasn't used to walk, because the walk is speaking there about, it's the verb, right? It's the verb in the continuous present tense. So walking, right? I am after work, I will be walking to the station. I will be walking to the station. Right now, I am not walking. I am sitting because I'm doing the class. This is speaking about somebody, and he wasn't used to walking. So he wasn't accustomed, right?
Yes.
He wasn't accustomed to walking so much, and his legs hurt. And the be here, the be is coming from the was, right? Because was is the verb to be, but it's in the past as opposed to the present, right?
Okay.
He was not used to walking so much and his legs hurt. I'm a teacher, so I'm used to speaking in public. Used to, again, meaning accustomed. I'm a teacher, so I could change this sentence and say, I'm a teacher, so I'm accustomed to speaking in public. Or these days, I should say, I'm used to speaking over Zoom, right? So that's what I'm used to means here.
Okay.
We use get used to talk about the process of becoming familiar with something. I'm finding this new job hard, but I'm sure I'll get used to it soon. So again, it's used in the sense of accustomed or familiar, but because it has the get in front of it, it means it's still to happen. I'm not used to it yet, but I'm sure I will get used to it, is the sense of it. Does that make sense to everybody? Give me a nod or give me a thumbs up. Yeah, or verbal, that's fine. Cool. Elham's with us now. Hi, Elham. I took my mother it took my mother years to get used to living in London after moving from Pakistan. So again, it's a change in circumstances being envisaged, somebody coming from Pakistan to London, and they want to become accustomed to it. And it did happen, right? But it took a long time. It took years. It took my mother years to get used to become accustomed, okay? I am getting used to the noise now. I find it really stressful when I first moved in. So somebody is obviously moved to a busy street, a noisy street or something, and they haven't fully got used to it. They're not saying I've got used. They're saying I'm in the process by saying I'm getting used to. Does that make sense? I'm getting used to it. So be used to and get used to are followed by a noun, a pronoun, or the ing form of a verb, and can be used about the past, present, or future. So what we'll do is at this second exercise, grammar test 2, to test what we have learned. I always hated the cold weather, but something it when I lived in Russia.
I got used to it.
Yes, exactly. We something much positive feedback about our old product, but the new formula is really successful.
We weren't used to it.
Third one.
So this one is wrong because it would have to say getting to be correct. The grammar is wrong, right? So it's we weren't used to getting much positive feedback about our product would be the right statement. The first one is we didn't used to get. So here is this used to with get being used to speak about the past. So we didn't used to get much positive feedback about our product, but the formula is really successful. Does that make sense? So that's the correct answer there. I work from home, so I something people around me all day.
I'm not used to.
Well, the problem with it's almost right, but not right, right? It's not right because it doesn't say it doesn't say having.
I am used to not having.
Yes, that's correct, Fabi. That's correct. You see, I'm used to not having is correct English. You can't say I'm not used to have, right? It has to be the present tense. So I have to say to having or not having. And this one is definitely wrong because you can't say I used to having. You have to say, make it the present tense and use the be verb there by saying am, which is what you're getting here. Is everybody comfortable with that? I know this is difficult, right? This is difficult. And mostly what happens is people like me who are native, we don't do this processing in our heads, right? You know, blah, blah, blah. Is this the right form of the verb, whatever? You just get used to it. Your ear picks up what people say and you know what the answer is. And so the best way to learn English, as I said to everybody at the very start, is just read. read English, right? Read something like, since it's Christmas time, you can read Dickens' A Christmas Carol. That's very appropriate for this time of year. And whether you celebrate Christmas or not, you'll still enjoy Dickens' novel. All right, so that's a recommendation. It's free, right? Because it's old. You can get a copy on the internet. Dickens, Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, right? Good fun. Okay. Now, let's go to the next one. I heard Eliza got promoted. Something her as your boss yet? So is it, are you used to having her as your boss? Or did you used to have her as your boss yet? Or are you used to have her as your boss?
Are you used to having her?
Elham, that is perfect, my dear. Yes. Are you used to having? Because it's as a statement about the present tense, you have to say having and not have. So neither of these can be correct. You stopped hiking, but why? You something all the time. Now, there's only one statement that is grammatically correct here out of these three. So
You used to going?
no, it's used to go. You used to go all the time. You can't say you used to going all the time. Going doesn't, you don't use the gerund form there, right? The ing form. You always say you used to go all the time. If I wanted to use the word going in that context, you would have to change the form of the sentence and say something like, you were always going all the time. You were going all the time. But here you would just say you used to go. Okay, everybody all right with that? I know this is a difficult one, this. But this is definitely the right answer, right? Right, next one. This is, you see, this is upper intermediate grammar. So this is all difficult, right? So this is not basics anymore, right? We've gotten past the basics. And you guys asked me for grammar, so you're getting it. All right. I've been a nurse for 2 years, but I don't know if I something night shifts. Is it? I don't know if I'll ever used to work night shifts, or I'll get used if I'll get used to work night shifts, or I'll ever get used to working night shifts. Which is it?
I'll ever get used to working?
That's right, Ilham. That is correct. Everybody else comfortable with that? Right. Even though I loved my old job, I something the long hours. I couldn't be used to, couldn't get used to, or couldn't used to the long hours. Again, there's only one statement that is grammatically correct here. Which is it?
I couldn't get it to the long.
The second one, you saying?
Second one, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. We basically would never say couldn't be. We almost never say that. The only context that I can think of when you would say couldn't be is if I said, I couldn't be having that. So if you said to me, Alan, come to Tehran, it'll be great fun. I could say, I couldn't be having the hot weather, right? I would say couldn't be there in that context. We would sometimes say, I couldn't be doing with that, right? How do you like Christmas? Well, I can't be, or couldn't be coping with all the food because people eat too much, right? Everybody overindulges in eating at Christmas time. So couldn't be is very rare, right? But this is very common. I couldn't get used to the long hours. I couldn't get acclimated. I couldn't get accustomed to it, right? Very common. But this expression I've just sort of said is like this: can't be doing with. Can't be doing. Be unwilling to tolerate or be bothered with. She couldn't be doing with meals for one. Let's see. So that's a good expression to know, right? Can't be doing with something. To be unable to bear something or have no patience with it. Example, I can't be doing with all this shouting and screaming, right? That's a very common expression. I can't be doing with. It means I just can't cope. I hated university because I couldn't cope with all the studying. That was an aside. I something with a guitar, but I don't have time now. I got used to playing. I used to playing. I used to play.
I used to play.
Repeat, Elham, you're a bit muffled. Repeat, please.
I used to play.
I used to play. Yes, this is true. And this is a true statement because I, teacher, used to play guitar. But I never practiced. So I'm really, really rusty now. And I regret that, you know. I used to think I was too busy with my exams and things like that. And nobody talked me out of it. Okay, so we got them all right. So that's good. Okay, enough for grammar for one evening. Let's do some vocabulary. Now, let me bring up my list of words. Have I done the expression with you better late than never? Yes, Elham, you got a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the difference between source and resource.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the question there is the difference between source and resource. Okay, well, we've got some interesting articles here. So we'll look them up in a minute. I'll give you Alan's version first because I like to do that because I don't want to be colored too much by what I read. So I'll tell you what it means to me, and then we'll see what some of the stuff on the internet says. So the source of something is where it originates. So we could say, for example, the source of a river is a little stream away up in a mountain. And it comes down from the mountains and it becomes the Euphrates. Or did you not know that little stream eventually becomes the Tigris, right? The source of the river is that little stream up there. So the source of something is the beginning of it. but so that's a good example to think about to understand the meaning of source. But other examples might be, what's the source of her intelligence? Oh, don't you know that she was school in the best schools from she was a kid? And her parents were very strict with her. That's the source of her intelligence. What's the source of his passion for the guitar? When he was a baby, his mother always played that kind of music on the radio. And so it became his passion. The source of his passion was what he heard when he was a child. So the source it's got to do with the origination of something. That's what source means. Now, resource has got nothing to do with that. It sounds similar, but it's got nothing to do with it. A resource is things or capabilities at your disposal. So when I came to think about and explore what was available to learn Spanish, I realized that there is an abundance of resources. Right? Not sources, but resources. That is, things that are readily to hand that can be used. Jeff Bezos can mess about with rockets because he has an abundance of resources. So that's a financial statement, but it's also a statement about just, he's got a finger in a lot of pies. He has an abundance of resources. When the pandemic hit the world, the Western nations have been able to provide for their populations vaccinations. But in addition, some of them have been able to help out some of the poorer nations which lack resources. Okay, so that's a few different examples of source and resource. Is everybody comfortable with what I've said so far? And if one of you gives me a thumbs up, then we'll move to what the web says. Right, Fabi says yes. Right, so let's see what the web's saying now. Though the two words source and resource look a bit similar, they're two different words with different meanings. Source refers to place or origin from where something is obtained. A resource refers to material, staff, supplies, and other assets that are needed for something to function effectively. Hear, hear. As they say in the British Parliament, they say, hear, hear, which means I agree. Or in church, they say, amen. So I agree with that, right? That's a good definition. Let's see what these diagrams show. Let's see if we can make this bigger. Can I make it bigger? Source versus resource. Source refers to a place, person, or thing. Hide thumbnail video, right? And I don't like the way this is covered here. Source refers to a place, person, or thing from which something originates. It means its meaning can differ slightly according to different contexts. A source is a place from where you can obtain something useful or valuable. Source is mostly used in singular form. That's a good and astute observation. We don't normally, I don't think we ever refer to sources. You could say sources, but you mostly don't. You mostly say source. Resource is a supply of money, staff, materials, and other assets that can be used by an individual or organization in order to function efficiently and effectively. A resource is something that helps you perform some function. Resource is mostly used in plural form. I agree, it is. You can say resource. You know, have you got the resource to do that? You know, as a rhetorical question. Or you could say, have you got the resources for that, right? Because the use of the plurality, you know, implies a multiplicity, right? Implies many of said thing, right? Resources. I work in a big company, it's a bank, so it has a lot of resources. Yeah. Okay, any other questions from anyone, either on this or anything else? No, no more questions. Right, let's go to some vocabulary now. Have we done better late than never, that idiom expression, better late than never?
No.
No,
I don't
okay.
remember.
Okay, right. Well, that's a good one to use then. So better late than never. Well, first of all, the obvious meaning is it's sometimes better. It's better if something happens late than not happening at all, right? So Fabi had a party, invited me to it, but I got delayed in work and couldn't arrive till 10 o'clock at night. I arrived late and say, oh, I'm really sorry I'm so late. I'm really embarrassed. The standard response to that situation from Fabi would be, oh, no problem. Better late than never. Better late than never. It is better to do something arrive after the expected time than not to arrive at all. So it is almost always said by somebody observing somebody else who's in the late situation. Better late than never.
Better late than never.
Said with such polite English. Better late than never. Okay. So now you know some more idiomatic English. Now, I think I might have done this one. Speak of the devil. Did you know this expression? Speak of the devil? No?
Yep.
No.
You don't know that one? Okay. So just before I arrive at Fabi's party, Elham is chatting. We're all invited to this party, right? And Elham is chatting to Mona and says, where's teacher? I thought teacher was coming. Yeah, I thought he was coming. Knock, knock, knock. I arrive. Oh, I'm sorry I'm late. Fabi says, no problem. Better late than never. I've kept some food aside for you. And I look up and see Elham, and she turns to Mona and says, speak of the devil. And so, again, this is used when somebody turns up for something and you were just speaking about them. That's the context in which it's, you know. So Elham isn't really calling me a devil and saying that, right? But there was a little bit of innocent gossip going on just prior to my arrival. You were talking about me. And so, like, sometimes you'll arrive somewhere and somebody will look at you and they'll say, speak of the devil, right? So you've turned up, you're maybe late, but the point was there was a conversation about you just prior to you arriving. And so they say, speak of the devil. Say when a person appears just after being mentioned. Okay, so it's not a pejorative comment. It's always said innocently. You don't take offense at it. They're not really calling you a devil. Okay? Memorize this one. This is a good one to know. And it's very common. Okay. Right, here's another good one. A blessing in disguise. A blessing in disguise. So sometimes something happens to you or to someone, and it seems an unfortunate situation, right? It doesn't, it's like a curse, right? Something happens, but it's bad. Ostensibly, it's bad. We've done the word ostensibly before. Somebody can remind me what it means in a minute. But in actual fact, it turns out for the best. And so somebody would say, that was a blessing in disguise. So it seemed to be a curse. It seemed to be a problem. But actually it was a blessing and not a curse, but it was in disguise. So let me give you a real example of that. I was going to this famous party that Fabi was organizing. But the reason I got delayed was my car ran out of petrol. And so I had to walk and get some petrol and go back to my car and so on. But when I drove another half hour or so, I discovered a terrible accident. It was a multi-car pileup on the road. And somebody said, I stopped. And somebody said it just happened about 10 minutes previously. And so if I hadn't have run out of petrol and I had carried on, I might have been involved in that accident. So although I felt terrible to run out of petrol, it was really a blessing in disguise. It didn't feel like a blessing at the time, but really it was. Does that make sense? It's a bit of an elaborate picture I'm painting here. This is some party we're all going to, isn't it? right. We have lots to talk about at this party. Right. So let's look up what the web says. Blessing in disguise. An apparent misfortune that eventually has good results. Being omitted from the World Cup squad was a blessing in disguise. Okay. Very common. Very, very common. Good one to know. Right, well, let's do a couple more. Right. This is a good one. Getting out of hand. Does anybody know what that means, first of all? Getting out of hand. No? Okay. So when something is getting out of hand, it means getting out of control. Right? So people were so disappointed that teacher was late for this party that they started drinking too much. And by the time he arrived, it was getting out of hand. Right? You'll remember this party for sure. Right. Getting out of hand, meaning if a personal situation gets out of hand, you're no longer able to control them. His drinking has got out of hand. You think I'd read that ahead of time, which I didn't. This party is getting out of hand, right? It's losing control, right? Or you could say, Elham was looking after her nieces and nephews, but they were getting very boisterous and they were getting out of hand. Yeah, that's a very common expression. In other words, the kids were getting tired and boisterous, and they were just, it was hard to control them. They were getting out of hand. Yeah. Okay. So very common, good expressions to know. Right. Here's another one. Get your act together. So this is a kind of rebuke, right? And it's somebody would say it to somebody else to tell them that they should get their act together. And what they mean by is get your act together is get themselves sorted out, right? Get them, you know, it can be about any sphere in life, right? It could be to do with money, the finances. It could be to do with emotions. It could be to do with family relations. So somebody says to me, you know, I really don't know what to do with my life, you know. You know, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried the third thing, I've had 3-4 different jobs, but I just don't know what to do. As a response to that could be, you need to get your act together, right? You need to make a decision, right or wrong. You need to make a decision and not jump from one thing to another thing all the time, right? And be unsettled. Let's look up what the web says here. Get your act together. Galvanize oneself into organizing one's affairs effectively. Whew, that's kind of very posh language to describe really quite a simple thing. But this thing here, organization, is really the root of it, right? Is you need to get yourself organized, right? So here's some synonyms. Acclimate, accommodate, accustom, alter, comply, conform, fit, modify. Don't like any of those. So his new boss has given him 1 month to get his act together or he loses his job. There you go. That's a very good use of it. After months of putting it off, he finally got his act together and started working on the project. You'd better get your act together if you want a raise this year. Right? So you see that there's a criticism here. You know, there was criticism from the boss because he didn't have his act together. And he was getting threatened that if he didn't get himself organized, he was going to lose his job. Then he got his act together. He got himself organized and started working properly. And then the second one, if you get your act together, I didn't mean to click on that, but obviously did click on something there. He's been playing poorly all season, so the coach warned him that he should get his act together if he wants to keep his place in the team. So that's being used in a sporty context there. His work is getting poorer and is full of mistakes. If he does not get his act together soon, he will risk losing his job. Okay? Get your act together. Ladies, get your act together. You could say to me, teacher, you should get your act together in the new year and learn some Spanish. And then I can chat to Fabi and her lingua franca. Yeah, that would be cool. And then when I've learned that, I can come and talk to Mona and Elham and learn some Farsi. Wouldn't that be fun?
Thank you, teacher.
That's called a quixotic statement, right? Quixotic. There's a good word, quixotic. Do you know that word, quixotic? Anybody know that word, quixotic? Have you ever heard of Don Quixote? It's a massive novel. It's one of the biggest novels. Spanish, actually. It's a Spanish novel by a guy called Cervantes. And it's spelled like this. Don Quixote, right? And that's what the novel's called. It's by this guy, Miguel de Cervantes. And it's given birth to an expression, quixotic. And quixotic means an unrealizable dream, unrealistic dreams, right? And that's a bit like me, right? I dream big. But most of these dreams are unrealizable, right? Right. That's a good word to know, quixotic. Did you know this, Fabi? Since this is really Spanish. Extremely idealistic, unrealistic, and impractical. A vast and perhaps quixotic project. That's a really good word to know. And it's good to know the etymology of it, the fact that it comes from this story, this novel. It helps you remember the meaning, right? You think quixotic, Don Quixote. Oh yeah, that was the guy with the big dreams. Got it? Right. So we've got our act together. Last one I'll do tonight. So far, so good. Alan, how's the English teaching going? So far, so good. So far, so good. In other words, not bad. Up until now, it's been going okay. People appreciate it. So far, so good. Very, very common response to a question about how something is going. So far, so good. Alan, how's your Spanish going? Total nightmare. I can't say so far, so good, right? Because I've not spent enough time on it, right? But my English teaching, so far so good. That's going okay. Does that make sense? Progress has been satisfactory up till now. Very succinct, to the point.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. If you want to learn how to pronounce English, just press these buttons in Google.
So far, so good.
That is very English, right? It's not Irish, not Scottish. So far, so good. Very polite. Is so far, so good rude? No, it's not. How do you reply to so far, so good? I don't know. It's just a greeting. Usual response is good. Yeah. Yeah. Can I say so far, so good when somebody asks me, how are you? Well, that's an unusual response, to be honest with you. So this guy says, yeah, you can say so far, so good, but it doesn't communicate the same as simply saying good. It's informal. Let me turn off my Spanish. It's informal and why is that giving me Spanish? And often a little humorous. When most people say, how are you? They're not actually asking you how you are. I've told you that before, right? When I say, how are you? I'm not really asking. Not that I don't care, but that's not the meaning of the expression. When people say, how are you? They're just saying, hi. It's like the Americans say, what's up? I get that. What's up? It's just a greeting. And the usual response is good. Yeah. How are you? Good. Right. Whether you're actually good or not. Yeah, that's very true, right? So whether I'm good or not, I'm still going to say good, right? If you have a relationship with someone, you know them, either a friend or a family, at least to know that they would appreciate some humor when it can be appropriate to answer, how are you, with so far so good. Yeah. 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 Delete that from the record, right? Don't say so far so good to that. Say so far so good when somebody asks you how something is going, right? How's the application process going for the new job, Fabi? So far so good. That's a good response to that question. Yeah, it's going okay, satisfactorily. So far so good. Make sense? Okay, I'm going to time it out there because I want to go home. And I'll have no class next week because I'm giving myself a break for Christmas. All right. But I will return in the new year, first week in the new year, whatever date that is. What date would that be? Let me figure that out. But I will put a note on the system in Hello Talk. Right. So that would be the 6th. So Thursday, the 6th of January, we'll restart again. We'll be off on the 30th. We'll start again on the 6th. All good with that? If any of you have any burning questions related to English that you need to discuss with me, just WhatsApp me if you have my number, or ask me in Hello Talk if you don't have my number, right? If it's a question that you think others would benefit from, then by all means put it in the group chat, right? quite a few people ask me stuff directly, and I always think, yeah, but other people want to know the answer to this. So my preference is if you've got a language question, stick it in the group chat, and then I can answer you there, and then everyone gets the benefit. Good. If anyone is just feeling lonely and wants to chat to me, you can just contact me and we'll organize a time and we'll have a wee chat. All right. Because I'm going to be off work. I'll have plenty of time. If somebody who just wants, you might want that because you want to practice your English, right? Just talking in conversation, because we don't have much conversation on this. I do 99% of the talking, right? So if anyone wants some time one-on-one with me, no problem. Just text me and we'll organize sometime. All right.
Thank you, teacher.
So
Thank you for your time.
yeah, so I'm just going to figure out how to stop sharing my screen. I'm not quite sure how to do that now. I seem to have lost my controls. This is a wee bit disturbing. I can't find my I can't find my Zoom controls. Maybe if I click on Zoom, go back to the meeting. Back to the meeting. Oh, there they are. They're on. What they've done is they've moved to my other screen. I'm using two screens because I'm in work. Right, stop share. There we are. Okay. And then I'll stop recording.